I have been an educator for 36 years. All 36 years at Porterville Unified School District, 10 as a teacher's assistant, 14 as a teacher, and then as an administrator after that. But I'm going to say, and I probably shared this before, I am 57, and I have either been a student of or an employee of serving our community for 50 years. When I was first toying with the idea of it, it was a major struggle. When I made that decision, there was an overall sense of relief that the decision was made, and I felt good about the decision. But it was emotional, and it still is emotional, because, and I'll get emotional, I love these kids. I love my community. It has been my home since I was 1 year old. And so it's hard, and I've developed such good relationships with my colleagues and even with students and their families throughout all these years that I see them out and about in the community and you know, consider them friends. And so it's hard to leave that. So yeah, I think about what I will do, and I know that in my second act, it'll still involve serving our community in some way, shape, or form, because that's still in me. But I have other things I want to be able to do in these next several years, and I want to be healthy, I want to feel good, and be able to enjoy those things as well. So I actually offered, and initially it was because I found out that our leadership team here at Butterfield, I learned that one of them was pregnant. And I thought, oh my goodness, I want to be able to support, because that's a key person out. And then I learned that the other key person in our leadership was pregnant, and I thought, I don't want to have my successor come in and have these very vital people out for a good part of this first semester when they're trying to learn the ropes. And so, and then I will also say that there were some key things I wanted done, and one of them was to have our WASC accreditation done, and we had worked hard on it here as a team, and with COVID that didn't get to happen. And so again, looking forward, I'm proud of what we've done here at Butterfield. I believe in this school, and I believe in these students and the teachers, and I wanted my successor to have success from the get-go, and to keep moving forward. And so I wanted to get that WASC report off of that plate too, so that that person would be able just to settle in, learn the program, and keep things moving. So we were able to accomplish all of those this year and have 2 healthy babies, and we actually have 2 teachers, and we have 2 more healthy babies on their way next fall. But we can substitute those teachers. But our counselor and our assistant director, kind of hard to substitute. So so I feel much better and more at peace with where I am right now. Mm-hmm. You know, for one thing, it's just alt ed, and and by that we mean it's an alternative means of education. And you know, I grew up in a family, and my oldest sister and I were the only ones to graduate from traditional high school. And my other siblings, I had 2 sisters who were teen parents, and they both dropped out of school. One of them returned to the adult school and earned her degree, and then went on to college and became a nurse. The other earned her GED and had a very successful career as a pharmacy tech and is retired. My brother did not graduate, very artistic, and so he has made a good living following his passions and his skills. But looking back, the 3 of them most likely could have been better supported in an alternative program. You know, I feel like I grew up in a family that needed alternatives. And then when I got into education, my first job was in an alternative program. And to see the difference that it has made in the lives of students and their families, to be able to support them through difficult things in their lives, no matter what those issues might be, and no matter what the cause of them are. They're young people. Some of them have made poor choices, but we've all been young. We've all made poor choices. Some of us have paid a bigger price for those choices. And it doesn't mean that we kick those kids to the curb. It means that we need to support them and help them make some corrections and move forward to be successful. And that's still who we see here in Butterfield. Students who don't fit the traditional educational model, and to provide opportunities for them to be successful, and to be creative in our thinking of how we do that, and to work closely with the student and the families to create those education plans to help them. I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that it's for the bad kids. It's for the bad kids. They're in trouble. They're no good. They're, kicking them to the curb and giving up on them. In reality, we have students who have undiagnosed learning disabilities. We have students who have undiagnosed behavioral or mental health diagnoses, or undiagnosed, but we also have students, again, who have made poor choices. But again, we've all made poor choices, and as adults we get to correct those. And I would say many of us, when we were younger, made those poor choices and maybe didn't get caught. And so we have a range. We do have those students that we support, but we also have students in alternative education who have other passions and interests in their life that could take them to college in a different avenue, could take them to career on this different avenue. And because of that, they need to have a school that provides them choices, that provides them flexibility. Over the years, we have served young and budding musicians who have had to attend rehearsals and training with master tutors that would get in the way of their schedule at a regular campus, at a comprehensive campus, and then have gone on to be professional musicians, very successful. We currently have a student who is a national rodeo championship for her area of expertise in rodeoing and her age, but this provides the opportunity for that travel, that training, and she's a A through G college-bound student. So, and again, I'm also going to point out to those students who have mild to moderate mental health conditions, that sitting in a classroom of 35 or 40 students is just overwhelming to them. And they are bright students who are going to be very successful in the career of their choice, but that meets the needs of their social emotional person. So we're supporting those students as well in figuring out those coping skills and getting that education and helping them to determine a career that would be good for them. Well, I think it'll help Butterfield in that we'll have more families out there who realize that independent study, or for our younger kids, homeschooling, is the perfect model for their family. And that there is an option out there, because as we discussed a little earlier, there has been that mindset that alternative ed is for the bad kids. It's for any kid who this model works for. It's as simple as that, and it doesn't matter what their behavior, what their abilities. If this is going to work for the family and the student, we can help them solve, some of those issues there. So you're going to have those parents who realized distance learning was good for my child, and when that's no longer an option at their own school, they can then come to Butterfield and receive those same services that work for them, be they kindergarten through 12th grade. So because we have really been working on our K-6 model and our, I would say K-5 model and our 6-8 model, kind of middle schoolish there. We've been working on that for a few years, and we're making some headway. But I think we're poised to really move forward with that K-8 homeschooling component, and then we'll keep doing the good work we have always been doing with that 9-12. I think more families will take advantage of it. It's been pretty good, you know, a little slow moving, and families have to learn whether or not it's a good fit for them. So we have given the opportunities for families to try this, and it has worked for some and not for others. So that transition, bringing in those younger grades, I think we're on the right track. We have a few families now, and it's like once you get a family that it works well for it, and they've bought in, and their kids are successful, and the parents are happy with it, word of mouth. And it might be word of mouth amongst your neighborhood, or amongst your colleagues at work, or at your church, or something like that. But then other families start to see, and then you can build that culture supporting, you know, the families and the students in these younger grades. And I think that's something that we look forward to here at Butterfield, is growing that piece. And then finding, you know, the right teachers. One of our teachers right now actually homeschooled her children, and so she's doing a bang-up job with these homeschooling families. And then the middle school, we had started to build the middle school piece out a little bit when we had Prospect Ed and Butterfield. But as those programs merged, we brought that middle school component here to Butterfield, and it's been very helpful. One of the other things that we see is students who might typically say, you know, I have anxiety or something and I need to be on home and hospital. That's really not what home and hospital is for. But we have this homeschooling independent study program that can serve you. When we're working with students who have generalized anxiety or depression, our staff here will work closely with their therapists. We'll have our nurses and our school psychologists work directly with the medical or mental health team to determine what is that therapy plan, so we can support that therapy plan. And it might be letting the student work at home only for a while, and then come on site 1 day a week, and then can you come on site 2 days a week, as part of their therapeutic plan to build that comfort level and practice some of those coping skills getting out and about in the public. So that's been beneficial, I think, for our middle schools as well. And to be honest too, sometimes with our middle schools, a lot of behavior problems, you know, kids acting out at the comprehensive campuses. And we find that this can be a really good place for them. It allows them to come to school somewhat, and the parents are even relieved that they can work on getting their child some help with the behaviors and still get that education at the same time. And again, putting those plans together to support them, and working with a behavioral team and medical team and that type of thing. So I'll tell you, I can't say specific groups of kids, but there are key children who have made an impact on me, helping me to be a better teacher. Whether it's one student in particular who had a very difficult stuttering problem when I first started teaching, when I went from teacher's assistant to teacher. I still see her in the community. She still calls me Mrs. Crater. She won't call me by my first name. But what she taught me about compassion for my students, and my teaching skills, and just little routines that she and I could put together to help her be successful. And she was a brilliant kid, but to be successful and participate at a level that she was comfortable with so that she could feel included, taught me so much, and she's in my heart forever. I have a student here, and I would say one tiny regret I have about retiring this year is I started working with this student when he was in the 6th grade, and he's a junior this year. So I told him, I'm going to get special permission to be on stage with you when you graduate next year, and I'll be back. Because he's the student I've probably worked with longest in my career. Just an incredible young man, an incredible mother. I just can't believe how she's just amazing with him. And other students who have come to us with such difficult pieces of their lives, and to see the changes. We had a student graduate last year that I worked with, I think 3 years. I won't say on camera here things she used to say to me and call me when I first started working with her. But even with the pandemic, big giant hug for her at graduation, big giant hug to Mom at graduation, because everybody worked really hard for her to be successful, and the change in this bright young woman is just amazing. And then, unfortunately, there are some students we work with, and every school faces this, but part of what we do at Butterfield is to support some of the home and hospital. And, often when we're supporting home and hospital, things end up as tragedies. And working with those families, supporting those families, and loving on those families and that child through those, last months, weeks, and days, to the point where some of the home hospital teachers would say, I don't go to the home, I don't really instruct. Child's not capable of instruction, and we're obligated to provide instructional services. Sometimes that might look different. You might be reading a book to that child, comfortingly giving the mom that hour of respite while you're loving on their child. And it might just be simple, reading a book, having a conversation, but to provide that support to those families, to, unfortunately, that tragic end sometimes. Those kids and those families, they, in my heart. Again, I talked about helping these families to that tragic end, and it is very tough. And this young woman, when the school year started, last school year, we were looking for her. She was on our rolls, and we had been serving her for the last few years, home and hospital off and on, but she was ours. And we were trying to contact family and locate her to understand where she was in treatment and all of that at that moment. And before we could locate her, we read her obituary in the paper. So fast forward to the end of the school year, and Mom contacts us and said, with all of the senior events, what does my child have available? Wow. And that is something I never had to deal with before, but I wasn't going to give up on this family, so I had to reach out and learn what we could do, and we were able to provide a honorary posthumous diploma to her family for her, and she was also a teen parent. And so when we had our drive-through, it was interesting because we're congratulating all these kids walking through our line and all of our little stations we had set up, and eventually them ringing the bell as we do here at Butterfield when our kids graduate. I noticed this van parked on the street across the parking lot, and they sat there, and I thought, okay, why aren't they getting in line with the rest of them? I'm thinking this, and then it occurred to me, that it was her family, and they waited till the end. And we had said that the student and one person could exit and walk the stations for graduation that we had set up. And when I walked up to the van to greet them, they said, just one person. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I said, open that door. Come on out, all of you. Come on out. I turned around and I looked, Dr. Stimke was here, and I turned around and I looked at her, and she said, it's okay. And our staff just enveloped these people with love, and let them take their time, and they took photos, and her baby was there, and they rang the bell in her honor, and they accepted her diploma in her honor. And it probably was the best 20-30 minutes of my career, being able to help that family honor their child after her death. And yeah, I don't think there was a dry eye along the line of all the staff, but it's the humanity that we have to look at. We're about educating these kids. They need to know how to read, they need to know how to write, they need to be able to do mathematics and learn science to just survive in this world these days. But we can't forget that there are human beings underneath all of that, and that every single one of them, no matter what they look like, the color of their skin, the side of town they live on, the job that their parents do, or the job that their parents don't have, you could have the student who just looks perfect every day and comes from a family with a good income and lives in a nice home. We don't know what goes on behind those doors. We don't know what's going inside that mind. We don't know what happened that morning. And we've got to remember that when they come to us and things aren't great, we shouldn't be saying, stop, you're a bad person or whatever. We need to start asking those questions. Why? What's going on? How can I help? Because every single one of us brings something with us to work every day, and some of us can cope throughout the day and some of us can't. And as adults, we struggle with that enough, and our children struggle with it even worse because they don't have the skills and the experience and the life lessons learned that we do as adults. So we got to look at the humanity and look beyond the academic pieces to help these kids be successful. I'll miss cutting up with them. I'll miss seeing them roll their eyes when they don't get my humor if I'm dancing or doing one of my oh, Miss Crater. I'll just miss that kind of connection with them, just having fun with them, stepping into a classroom and participating in whatever activity they're doing at that moment, going out and sitting down at a table with them at lunchtime and just visiting. Hey, did you see that movie? Oh, that new movie's coming out. Yeah, I like that actor. Just having conversations with them. I'm gonna miss that day-to-day connection of just hanging out with some spunky young kids.